Hey, it's Luca from EDM Prod, and I'm excited to share some tips on how we can incorporate some metallic sound design into your tracks. This video won't be so focused on like bass music and dubstep because there's already so many tutorials that cover that. Instead, I'm just going to be talking about some of my favorite techniques that I've been using, including like turning drum loops into metallic sort of sequences and using things like Corpus to layer on top of basslines to make them a bit more interesting. Of course, if you want some free stuff, the EDM Prod website has you covered, so go check that out. But without further ado, let's get into this video. Cool, so metallic sound design, how do we go about it? Well, the first example I have for you, I've just pulled up a hat loop and it sounds like this. And what I'm going to do is use some delay, some really quick delay and feedback to create this metallic tone. So if I pull up my delay, if we use really quick delays and we turn up the feedback a bit, this delaying signal will start to generate a tone for us. So I'm going to turn this all the way up 100% wet, and you can see that around sort of like 10 to 20 milliseconds, there'll be a tone. So how can we use this musically? Well, what I'm going to do is actually grab a tuner device, the forgotten tuner device in Ableton, right? So this is an F sharp, right? I'm going to tune this around, see A flat. I think that'll do. Okay, so I've actually typed in 19.25 milliseconds, and this is bang on A flat. So the gist of this is, because it's repeating over and over, it's like it's oscillating and it's generating this tone that is now tuned to A flat. So now with this metallic sound, the great thing about metallic sounds is they have so much like texture and high end to them. So we can really shape them as we like. So I'm just going to turn the feedback down on this one to maybe 70 roundabout, and I'm gonna grab let's see what happens when I grab a filter. I've got an idea. I'll grab an echo as well and do the classic. This is one of my favorite tricks that you'll see me do a lot, is just LFO a filter before an echo, and I'm just gonna bring the bass out a little bit. This will just generate this this moving filtered stab sound. In fact, if I make a resonance boost here, when this filter moves to this position, then this will really be caught and delay a lot more than the rest. And I think that's a really cool effect as well. So that metallic starting point, that source material, is really useful for sound design because it offers a really strong and interesting foundation to your sound design. It's not something that you can easily achieve with a subtractive synthesizer, and it just generates this really interesting effect. And plus, it also is a drum loop, so it has a lot of rhythm and syncopation already built into it. So if I play the metronome, you can see there is a lot of groove already in the loop. It's a really good starting point to an idea. So let's just put some drums and bass over it quickly and see how that sounds in context. This is just like such quick inspiration from this loop, and it's a cool idea. I like where it's going already. Okay, so our next one is going to be using Hybrid Reverb, which is a new Ableton 11 device. Turn it off for now, but I'm going to look for, I think, a conga loop this time. Just keep in mind, I'm using drum loops here. I'm looking for something with some nice syncopation, not just like straight 4 on the floor kick drums or just like a straight house loop. I want something with a little bit more groove to it. So conga loops are a good example that you can use for that as well. So I like that one actually. So yeah, let's see how this goes. So to get this effect working, what we're actually going to be doing is playing with the pre-delay here and taking advantage of the feedback feature in the pre-delay. So what this is doing is like we're feedbacking the sound into itself, and this pre-delay is pretty much how quick the delays are. So I'm going to turn this onto convolution, and then I'm going to find a convolution impulse to use. So I think made for drums makes sense in this case, and we can let's just have a click through and see what works. I want just like a short one. I think this might work. Yeah. I need to turn the wet all the way up as well. And we're going to be, using this feedback to make this, to generate this metallic tone. And so now it's just a matter of playing with the decay and the size. You can get some really crazy effects once you move the size around. So that's a cool one. So now I'm just going to try and I'm going to get my tuner and just try and tune it to a note. So this seems like just below B. Maybe let's just move it up. That's near A. Try and get it onto A. Maybe we're at 18.3 at the moment. Maybe we could try 18.2 milliseconds. Perfect. That seems pretty good. Now, again, the same as last time. Yeah, we can do a similar thing in terms of processing. You could put filters on that. It's just it's a beginning to some inspiration that we can use. We can also put an EQ in hybrid reverb. We could even try and layer this as well. So maybe I could add a duplicate copy of this, and on the second one, change the size of it. And see if we can get a different register. Maybe EQ it differently as well. And then maybe we could group these and put a filter on it. Put a delay on there as well. Sounds almost like a trance sequence. Maybe we could turn the shape onto like a ramp up and turn the amount up, and then play it with this. Maybe put on like a bar or something. Really cool sound from this bongo loop that I think I really want to flesh out a little bit more at another time. So for our next example, I'll show you how I use Corpus sometimes to like layer on top of bass lines and make it sound a little bit more interesting. What we have right now is this. Which is cool. It's a little bit dull. There's not much going on in the high end. It's just a bass, and I want to fill it out a little bit more with Corpus. So I'm going to pull Corpus on. With this, we're not just going to be using Corpus directly on the track. We're going to be using chains. And so I'm going to hit Command G to put it audio effect group, and then audio effect rack, sorry. And then I'm going to create a new chain. And this chain is just going to be the dry chain. I do this a lot if you've seen my stuff before. So this one I'm going to call Corpus. And let's just play around with this and see how we go. I'm going to turn this one off. And so we're just hearing this one. And turn the wet all the way up. And so what we're hearing is just the sound from Corpus. Maybe I'll swap this to 5. I just want something short, so you can see the decay is left to right, this XY pad here, and then the radius, let's see how we go. Maybe up this corner. Kind of a nice little attack on it. Our bass line is in G, so I want to try and hit that G. I'm just going to hold shift, and then that'll allow me some fine scrub control. And then around here is G with -3 cents, so that'll be close enough for me. Play with some other features on here. Corpus is a really experimental device because a lot of these things, they have names that are quite arbitrary, like hit or bright, and so they're sort of expecting you to just mess around with the features and see what sounds good. The really handy thing about Corpus is it has this filter in it, so I actually don't want too much low end in this sound. I just want the top of it. And that's really cool. I think adding this on top of our bass is going to make it sound a little bit more full. I think that's a really cool vibe. Let's go a little bit further and maybe put a delay on this as well. So I really like how this sounds once you change the delay times here. So I'm just going to record this in and record in the automation and have a little bit of fun with this. So all of a sudden there's this texture on top and now it's being modulated and it sounds really cool. I really like it. Maybe let's add one more layer. I'm going to duplicate the corpus again and delete this delay and then see if we can add a tone that has a little bit more body to it. Maybe membrane. So I've sort of come across this and I've brought the filter frequency down. This is a bandpass filter and this is the bandwidth to more the low mids, and then I've just changed it to beam and sort of messed around with this for a bit. And it sounds cool when you bring those inharmonics down a lot. And then we can just like mix this in with what we have. Cool, maybe this could do with one more layer. So what I've done here is I've done the same technique as before, but now on the bass, and turned the dry wet all the way up to 100% and chosen a impulse response from this convolution reverb. And I've chosen the large bunker this time and cranked the feedback a little bit. I don't want it too much. And I just like that tone. And what I'm going to do now is sort of similar to the first one. I want a filter, and I'm just going to like bandpass, move this one around, and add this as a layer to the bass line as well. So it's a little bit on the left side, so I'm going to pull up a utility and just sort of pan it over towards more of the center. There we go, that's a bit better. And then layering this in with my bass, let's see how that sounds. Okay, so what I forgot to mention and that is occurring in this case is because this is 100% dry wet, the pre-delay 20.9, the whole sound is being delayed by this amount. They're a tiny bit off. For this to sync up, in Ableton, I'm just going to pull up the track delays over here and turn this down minus 20.9. Let's just type it in, minus 20.9. And now they're syncing up really nicely. think that's a really cool effect, and we're sort of using multiple different techniques that we've used so far. So all of these techniques, they accumulate, they can be added and used together as well. So this is just a good example of that and how we can use Corpus. Okay, so this time we're going to be using the Spectral Resonator, which is a super fun new Ableton 11 device that yeah, it's quite experimental, so kind of like Corpus in a way. But there's not that many knobs, and once you get to know everything, it's a really fun device. I'm just going to be using the internal mode. The MIDI mode, that is for another video, I'm sure. But the internal mode, what we have so far is just another drum loop, kind of like an echoing bongo loop. I'm actually going to take out this fundamental here, and what it's doing is it's kind of replacing the audio material we have with a whole series of resonation sine waves. I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of how it works, but it's creating its own harmonics. We've got this harmonics value here. As I bring it down, it keeps the fundamental harmonics. If we bring it all the way down, it's just one sine wave. And as we add harmonics, it gets brighter and brighter. This spectrogram shows you how quick each of the harmonics are decaying. So this HF damp and LF damp, what this does is it actually allows me to control the decay of the high frequencies and the low frequencies separately. So if I turn this up, the high frequencies will start to decay a lot quicker. You can see up here. These lines at the top become a bit more choppy, which is cool. I think what I'm going to do, A1 is a good note to play it at. We can also do a Hertz value here, but I'm going to stick to A1. We've got this decay knob, if we want it a little bit choppier, a little bit quicker. And this shift value here is super fun to play around with. It just creates these really cool textures in our tone. Maybe let's put some chorus on there. We've got this mod rate that we can play with. I like Wander. We've got some unison that we can apply. But in this case, I'm going to keep it at 1. And I think I want to modulate this shift value because it's creating some really cool textural tones. Okay, so now I've got an LFO here. I'm going to map this to the shift function, and I think I want it kind of random. And I'm going to turn the rate up to 1/16. That's about good. That's really crazy. I think I'm going to smooth it a bit. And I also don't want it to go all the way down or all the way up because it starts to cut out the sound when it does that. So let's bring the minimum, maximum values up and down. Smooth it even more maybe. And bring these maximum, minimum values up. I could just change the depth too. I think this is a cool top layer, but it's sort of asking for another layer as well. So let's duplicate this, and I'm going to get rid of this mapping here for the time being. And then I think I want something a little bit deeper. So maybe bring the shift down. Maybe take off this. Yeah, nice. So bring the decay up, adds a nice little bit of contrast to the other one. Maybe bring the harmonics down. And I think this time I'm gonna modulate the shift again, but in a slightly different way. I want it to go up. And the rate to be about 1 bar. Turn the jitter off and the smooth off, and let's see how this goes when I map it to the shift. And I'm just going to make this range really small, kind of like the bottom section of this shift. So I think I actually want to bring the frequency down an octave. Yeah, that's better. And now let's hear how that goes. And with some drums. A really cool effect, and there's so much potential to this thing. I'm going to be using it a lot. So lastly, I thought I may as well just run over a few things in Serum in terms of synthesis and how we can generate this metallic sound as well. There's some basic techniques here. The first one is FM. FM does a really good job of creating that sort of tonal metallic sound, and just FMing two sine waves together is a great way of achieving this. So at the moment, I've just got this one sine wave. I'm going to put it down an octave. Starting with the low sine wave is a really good way of doing it as well, because then you can create this a big ratio between the two. If you have two sine waves that are FMing that are a few octaves apart, then you get this really gritty sound. But for the time being, I've just got this other slightly different sine wave, almost a triangle, and I've just selected FM from B, and I'm just going to increase this FM amount. So that's a cool sound here we got so far. Filtering is a great way of doing this, and there's so many examples of this online, but comb filters are a good way of this as well. So I've actually mapped this comb filter cutoff frequency amount to this LFO, which I just put in a whole bunch of steps by just clicking shift and then clicking around. And these comb filters do a great job of not so much filtering as you'd expect, but just adding tonal qualities on top as well. And the last thing is effects. You can create so much metallic, or it really emphasize that metallic sound through effects and some sort of feedback or delay. So we can do this like we covered in the start of this video via delay, and I can do this with delay in here as well. So the feedback, we crank it up and we have these really short delays. So milliseconds are like 16 milliseconds. Right, and it's just adding that overtone on top. Cool. So we could also do this with chorus, because chorus is delaying the signal as well. So what we'll need to do is just crank the feedback up a bit. When this automatically loads up, there's going to be a low pass filter, so we just take that off, and then we just play with the depth. Turn the depth down because we want these quick cycles, and then we turn the rate down as well. So that really emphasizes that metallic sort of gritty sound as well. And yeah, we can do this. There's more filters in here. We can go into some comb filters in here if we want. There's also in Serum, there's this hyper and dimension, which does a good job of sort of emphasizing that as well. So there's a few really cool ways of doing it. So I actually mapped this LFO here to the cutoff of this band pass filter here as well. So now we're getting this sort of effect. And there is a really quick way of making this cool sort of like generative metallic sort of sounding sequence as well. So these are just my personal favorite techniques. There are so many methods to creating metallic sounds that I didn't go into today. If you have any of your own personal favorite techniques, drop a comment below. I'd be interested to see what you guys come up with as well. And if you like the video as well, subscribing to the channel or giving the video a like would do wonders for us and would help us out so much. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.